all, I'm Kelly Nagle. This week, I have the pleasure of talking with my Teen Think Tank Project co-founder and friend, Matthew DeSantis. My professional relationship with Matt goes back to 2014, when we met during my time as VP of Development with the American Lung Association in New York City, and continued when I joined Susan G. Komen North Jersey as the Executive Director. We both share a passion for social justice, empowering others, and conflict resolution. In the summer of 2020, our working relationship and personal passions merged with the creation of Teen Think Tank Project. Our conversation explores the origins of the Teen Think Tank Project, delves into our vision and goals for the organization, and shares some anecdotal stories about our journey of personal and social betterment. I'm so excited for you to learn more about Matt and the creation of the Teen Think Tank Project. Enjoy.
You bring up a pretty good point that really resonates with me. And this might be splitting hairs or getting into semantics, but we talk about this idea of being good at communicating what's on our mind, right? I like to look at it from a little bit of a different perspective that's a little more nuanced. And I like to say that individually, we are good at broadcasting what's on our mind.
I'm behind that word. Okay.
Right? The methods in which we can distribute our thoughts and feelings are almost limitless at this point, right? Pick a social media channel, pick a distribution method, pick an audience. You can get your message out to them. But what I try to explain to people in my professional capacity is that, okay, yes, communication is broadcasting, but the flip side of that is receiving. So until we're both broadcasting and receiving, are we truly communicating, right? It's like, white men can't jump kind of situation of, you might be listening to Hendrix, but are you really hearing Hendrix? Right? It kind of always stuck with me. And I find that to be true now. And we talked a little bit about this concept of how we got here, you and I, in the Teen Think Tank Project, during a recent presentation to Archbishop Wood High School. And in that, I talk about my embarrassment, right? Which is really what led to the onset and the catalyst behind this project. Was I was embarrassed at the state of affairs amongst my colleagues, my contemporaries, right? The people that I respect, people that I deal with on a daily basis. I was watching them. And some of those people were very smart people. And I respect those people. Whether I agree with them or not, I want to know what they're saying. But what I started to see was they weren't talking to each other. They were talking at each other. And we've just became a society that was more interested in broadcasting and less interested in receiving. Therefore, we became more divisive and we became more polarized and we became more partisan. And if you have that chasm, something's got to fill it. And we started to see that it began to be filled with conflict. And I noticed it in my personal life, and I noticed it in my professional life, and I noticed it in my role as part of a community. And I after years of I don't know if I was apathetic or if I didn't have the confidence to feel like I could do something about it. Either way, I wasn't doing anything about it. And I just kept looking at the people around me who I tagged as the smart people to solve the problem. right? And I have one simple motto that is useful in both business and personal settings. It's, if you look around the room and you're the smartest person in the room, find another room.
Right.
And what I started to learn over these last few years is that embarrassment that I talked about with the kids at Archbishop Wood, maybe it really wasn't embarrassment. Maybe it was really frustration, because our problems and our conflict kept multiplying. And I kept looking around the room for the smartest person to help solve this problem. And I couldn't find the smartest person. Mm. And it wasn't because they weren't there. It was because they were wrapped up in ideology. They were wrapped up in dogma. They were wrapped up in partisanship. They were wrapped up in self-importance, honestly. So I just kept leaving the room. And eventually I found myself in a high school because I ran out of rooms to go into. And I said, you know what? I'm going to cut my losses and I'm going to try to reinvent the blueprint to the workable solution.
From here forward, where do we go? What does that look like? How, like, what should people be getting excited about to hear from us?
Yeah, that's good. That's a good question. From a practical standpoint, I think the biggest challenge for you and I in particular is just to live long enough to reap the benefits. To reap the benefits of these students. I had a doctor's appointment recently, and I sat on the edge of my seat while I was ticking off my cholesterol numbers because I wanted to make sure they were low enough. So I'm around long enough to see these kids, these students, bring the enthusiasm that they have now forward in solving some of the problems that we're looking at.
We'll call them senator or maybe president in 20 years.
If our colleagues, if our contemporaries, and take that for what it's worth, and in the most literal sense, it's our LinkedIn feed, right? In a more global sense, it's our community. It's the Gen Xers and Gen Yers, and even to some extent the millennials. If our contemporaries can do no harm from this point on, if we can just keep it status quo and then get out of the way, we, as a society, we will be fine. The problem that I have is looking at not only our contemporaries, but those who are already established, the generation, the boomers before us. They're not looking to cede power. They're getting older and richer and stronger, and staying in the workforce and being productive voices and productive members of society. And now with the distribution channels that are available to them, can increase their authority and increase their role in the issues that they are considered experts in. If that group, from our parents' generation on down, can just look around and say, well, wait a minute, there's a future beyond me. A, who will inherit that future, and B, who will be the caretaker of that future, and look to see who those are, realize that they are these high school students that we're letting in through our virtual doors, and then take the position of being their benefactor, whether that's emotionally, socially, or financially, and looking to empower these students we will be much better off as a society. So where will we be? That all depends on where my dad and his colleagues are going. That all depends on where our colleagues are going. That all depends on where my brothers and sisters' colleagues are going. If they are willing to realize their own limitations and look at the big picture and not necessarily cede all of their power and influence to a bunch of 16-year-olds, but incorporate those individuals in the discussion, I think we're in a good spot. I think we're going to be in a good place. And my message to those individuals, to those, those folks who are nearing retirement, or those folks who are, 5 or 6 years into their professional journey, if you don't feel comfortable doing that, if you're not sure how to do that, just give us money and give us a bunch of money and we'll do it for you. Yeah. This is an instant gratification society. You can hire somebody to do anything. If you're interested in where society is going and the health of that society, well, that's going to cost us some money. So you just give us some money, but we'll make sure that you are in a good spot.
We'll take care of
come 5 years, come 10 years. So look at it as social disability insurance, societal disability insurance. I feel pretty good.
I'd like to thank Matt for joining me today. And if you'd like to learn more about the Teen Think Tank Project and social justice programming for exceptional teens, visit www.teenthinktankproject.com. You can also follow Teen Think Tank Project on all social media channels at teen_think-tank. I'd also like to thank all those who made this podcast possible. Our wonderful production team, the George Milton Group, Winnie the Moog for our theme song, and once again, my co-founder, Matt DeSantis. Most importantly, I'd like to thank you, the listener. Let us know that you're listening. Subscribe, rate, and review this podcast. Follow the podcast at problem_pod. Until next week, I'm Kelly Nagle.